On day 103 of the U.S.-Israel war with Iran, the conflict has reached a highly volatile boiling point. This latest phase began when Iranian forces shot down a U.S. military helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. Washington responded overnight by striking more than 20 targets inside Iran, including air defense systems, ground control stations, and radar sites. Iran immediately launched a counterstrike, firing missiles at 21 U.S. military bases across the Middle East. Following these strikes, the U.S. president claimed Tehran is stalling negotiations and promised to launch even harder attacks today. This rapid exchange of fire suggests that diplomatic channels have completely broken down, leaving both nations locked in an uncontained shooting war. While missiles dominate the headlines, the military focus is shifting toward the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. established a naval blockade here, preventing Iranian tankers from moving oil to global markets. Exports dropped immediately, plummeting from 1.4 million barrels a day to nearly zero. Tehran now loses an estimated $500 million in revenue every single day. The bombardment of radar sites is only one part of the strategy. The U.S. is using this economic siege to bankrupt the Iranian regime before a deal is even signed. Inside Iran, the loss of $500 million a day is creating a dire reality for the civilian population. Basic food items like rice and yogurt have seen inflation spike by 150% in just 2 months, making meat a luxury most families can no longer afford. The state is also failing to meet its payroll obligations. Employees in the banking, aviation, and university sectors have gone months without receiving their salaries. A government that cannot pay its workers or feed its citizens faces an internal, existential threat from its own people that is far more difficult to defend against than a foreign airstrike. These mounting pressures are at the center of a failed memorandum of understanding that was intended to end the war. Iran is demanding the upfront unfreezing of billions in foreign assets and full control over the Strait of Hormuz before they will sign any agreement. The U.S. executive branch has refused both demands, viewing the blockade and the frozen money as their primary leverage in the negotiation. This stalemate has allowed hardliners in Tehran to seize control of the narrative, using the external pressure to demand a new regional power structure rather than a compromise. With neither side willing to move on these core demands, both governments have reverted to active warfare and economic destruction as their primary tools of influence. The gridlock between Washington and Tehran is now spilling over the border into Lebanon. A brief pause in fighting ended this week, as Israel continues to strike what it describes as Hezbollah positions across the south. The civilian toll is rising in cities like Tyre and Sidon, where airstrikes are hitting areas previously spared from the heaviest fighting. The United Nations is now sending a mission to the region to investigate allegations of human rights violations and war crimes by both sides. While the primary actors remain deadlocked, regional allies and civilians are paying the immediate physical price for the diplomatic failure. The conflict is also reaching further south into the Persian Gulf, where Iranian drones and missiles have targeted sites in Bahrain and Kuwait. This expansion is causing alarm among Gulf Arab leaders, who are calling the White House to demand an end to the violence before it threatens their own domestic stability. These concerns will dominate the upcoming G7 summit in France, as world leaders look for a way to contain the crisis. Western powers face a dual challenge: the ongoing military escalation and the rapid depletion of global strategic oil reserves. The localized standoff has become a multi-front crisis. Until the blockade in the strait is resolved, the rising cost of energy and the threat of regional instability will remain a central concern for the world's largest economies.